All right, so this is the topic that I chose for today. Okay, let me another. Okay, essentials of research. Those of you who are new in my webinars, I do have a YouTube channel, a platform for research and development, dedicated to researchers worldwide. I do have about 5,000 subscribers. You do have video starting from very initial stage of research until the final Viva Voce guidelines, all are there, all right? So those of you who are interested, you may go and watch videos uploaded there. All right, and basically I work as a professor at University of Malaysia Perlis, and this is my 12th year working here. So far I have produced about 20 PhD graduates, and now currently I'm supervising another 15. And I do have also 15 postdoctoral scholars now doing their research with me. All right. Even though I'm originally from Bangladesh, but I have been living in Malaysia for about 26 years, more than half of my life. So my first degree, master's, PhD, these all are from basically from Malaysia, and have been working here almost 12 and 8, 22 years working in Malaysia. Okay. Now, let me start with very basic thing. When it comes to research, basically, I'm not going to ask you a question. Let me go through later. We will share our ideas and thoughts, okay? And I would love to see if somebody say you disagree with me and you have some other ways of looking at things, I will welcome that. Research is basically an organized, objective, and systematic process of to study a particular problem that needs a solution. So research is only undertaken when there is a problem. So whether a research is going to be a very good one or not, it is definitely dependent on the kind of problem that we have identified and defined. Okay, later I will explain more. But that is the bookish definition, but I rather like definition of like research is it's a journey. Research is a journey, it's a voice of discovery. It is an experience, it's a method of critical thinking, those kind of definition that I like. Those of you who have joined me pursuing PhD or Masters now, you would more like the definition given at the beneath rather than looking at the top. But the most important one is the top, okay? The middle one, the one I put red and a bit bigger. Research starts with a problem. There's no problem, there's no research, all right? So I always take an analogy of research and compare this with a journey. When you think of a journey, you simply do not wake up in the morning and you start a journey. You have to plan for it, okay? You have to plan for it. There should be a reason for going for a journey because it takes time, effort, it involves cost, and many other things, risks, and many other things involved in doing a journey. A research is like that. You cannot simply just start. You got to have some preparation before you take up a journey. Okay, so a journey, when you start, definitely we start with where, right? The destination, where you'd like to go. So in a research is similar. It's like what kind of outcome that would like to get. So that is there. And why? That is why you would like to do go somewhere, involving yourself in a journey. Journey is painful, even though enjoying, but it could be tiresome, it could be painful, it could be costly, it's time consuming, and many other things there in a journey. Same goes to research, So when you decide to go for a journey, there are many things you do, right? So when you plan, say, for example, if you're thinking of going from Perlis to Kuala Lumpur, then there are many ways of going. You can take the flight, you can go by bus, you can take the train, you can drive yourself, you can ride bicycle, you can ride the motorbike, you can even jog and go, you can even walk and go, even if it takes few months. So that's how it is. There are so many different ways of doing. In a research journey, also similar. You have, we'll be looking at that today. You have different approaches, different research design, different research method, different data collection method, different analysis methods. There's so many things are there. So likewise, so when you want to start a journey, you got to prepare your luggage and baggage, and you will prepare the luggage and baggage based on the kind of journey, the method that you are going to adopt. So if you're going by train, your preparation is different. If you're going by flight, preparation is different. If you're driving a car, your preparation is different. Similar, like in a research, if you're adopting deductive approach, it's totally different than you are adopting inductive approach. It's totally different if you are choosing a research design. Exploratory is totally different, exploratory research design, than descriptive research design or explanatory research design, or qualitative method or quantitative method. There's so many different ways of doing things. So it's going to be a journey. And sometimes we may take the route of the journey, right? So when you start from Perlis to Kuala Lumpur, I can definitely change the route. I can decide not to go following the highway. I can follow different ways. There's so many different ways out there. So that's how the research is. I may have bought a ticket to fly by the flight and morning. I miss the flight, so I start driving or I go by bus. So that all happens in a PhD journey or in a master by research or any research that we undertake. We start with a topic and we change after 3 months or 6 months. And then, we thought about the beginning, I want to do qualitative study, but later I changed my mind, changed to quantitative. So that's why I compare research with a journey. That's the analogy that I take. So when you want to start a journey, you have to prepare the luggage. Similarly, if you are starting a research, you have to prepare luggage, okay? You have to make sure your English is very good, your English is proficient to undertake master or PhD research, because you'll be reading papers in English, reading books in English, reading papers in English, you'll be writing in English, presenting in English. So that's the first requirement that you need to have. And number two, what kind of capacity, ability, capability you have, in terms of reading and understanding, reviewing and then putting it in writing, so there's so many different things that we need to, analytical skill, critical skills, certain software that you've got to learn, analysis skill. There's so many different things are there which got to learn actually before we take up the journey. What happens if you learn those during the journey? The journey will be delayed. Say, for example, if you want to go to Kuala Lumpur by driving a car and you do not know how to drive, definitely to reach KL will take you months, right? So same goes to research. When you take up a research journey and you do not have sufficient preparation for it, it's going to take time. Some students, like one of my PhD student completed a PhD thesis within 1 year and 9 months, and he was waiting for 3 months to be lapsed so that he can submit after 2 years, because in our university, no one can submit before 2 years. So 1 and 9 months, he finished it off, then he waited for 3 months. When 2 years and 1 day, he just submitted. But most of my students have taken about 3 years. Huh? And I do have students also taken 5 years. And I do have also 7 years. I would appreciate if you can keep your microphone mute. Huh? Please mute your microphone, please. If you have question, please ask during the question answer session. All right, thank you. So even I have a full-time student taken 7 years to complete PhD. So it all depends, on the preparation and during the journey, how focused you are in the journey. Okay. So in a research, these are the elements that definitely we have. We start a research problem, and then we do literature review, look at the theories and all that, identify variable, we develop theoretical framework, we construct hypotheses, and so on. Finally, we end up with recommendations, right? These are the common elements that we have in any empirical research. Now, this is something that I propose to understand research better. I compare research with a tree. The most important part of a tree is definitely the root of the tree. If there's no root, there's no tree. There's no root, there's no tree. Okay. So in a research problem is like the root of the tree. If there's no problem, there's no research. Okay. Now, then the body of the tree, I compare that with the theoretical framework or conceptual framework or research framework, because the body got to be stronger. See, if the roots are strong, then the body going to be strong, and the body will be capable of taking, the weight of the branches and fruits and all that you have at the top. If the body is weak, what will happen is, if more fruits and more branches and all that, the tree will not be able to keep that, okay, beyond that. So theoretical framework is like the body of a tree. And the branches of the tree, I compare that with the underpinning theories or the concepts in case it is a conceptual framework. So theories are like the branches of the tree. So branches of the trees also got to be stronger. Otherwise, you may not be able to keep the fruits with the tree, okay? And I compare a tree leaves with literature review. Basically, the leaves beautifies the tree. Whether a tree looks beautiful or not, depending on the color of the leaves, you know, the size of the leaves, the quantity of the leaves. So that beautify the tree. So similarly, a research is beautified by literature review. You do literature review, identify relevant theories, you identify variables and all that, that beautifies your research. And so if you are able to identify right theory, right concepts, right variables, then actually your research looks more beautiful, okay? That's how I compare that. And of course, in a tree, the reason we plant a tree is to see the outcome, the fruits or the flowers, right? For certain, we look for flowers, in some cases we look for fruits. So in a research, the outcome is like the fruits and the flowers that we like to see. That's the outcome of planting a tree, right? So in a research, like the contribution that you have, I compare that with the fruits and flowers. Now, if you plant a tree and that tree produces similar fruits and similar flowers, of course, you are not contributing anything. So in a research, if you are doing research and replicating, producing the same, then your research may not be appreciated. Okay, so what we would like to see is something new. For example, if you are planting a tree and you planted an apple tree, definitely you don't want to see orange in an apple tree, but we'd like to see maybe the apple size is bigger, maybe the quantity of apple are more, maybe the taste of the apple is more delicious. So that is the new contribution by you by planting a tree, okay? So in a research when you do, that's what we expect. Even though you replicate a study, but still we'd like to see something new. And that is what is expected from a PhD student, okay? Now, when it comes to data quality and robustness of analysis, I compare that with the soil quality of a tree. A tree, whether it can stand strong or not, is dependent on, or you can grow fast or not, or can give you more fruits or not, is dependent on the kind of soil you have, the quality of soil. If not, then you have to put some fertilizers, you have to water it and all that. So those comes with the data quality and robustness. In a research, data quality is like that, you know, it's like you are watering, you are fertilizing, you have identified what is the problem with the tree and you are fertilizing with the right kind of fertilizer so that the tree grows, okay? So that's what you do when you collect the data. So let me leave it here. Later during the question answer, I will explain more in case anyone has a question. And in case if you would like to debate with me, this is my own created analogy. Okay, so if you do not agree with me, I will definitely welcome debate on this. Okay, all right. Now, a research should start with a research problem essentially. As I said earlier, if there's no research problem, there's no research. So, what is a research problem is definitely something you know, a concern of an industry in the society, on the country, on the world. A condition that need to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, and so on. Okay, so now let me go to the practical area. There was a student in my university doing PhD. I don't want to mention his or her name and the country, all that. She was doing a study on organization performance, and I was the chairman in the proposal defense session, and she had serious trouble defending her work. The reason is, when we ask a question, why are you doing a study? What is your research all about? She says, I would like to measure the organization performance of such industries. Okay, so when you look at the sample, she has taken the top 50 IT firms of last 5 years into sample in Asia. So then we asked her, what is the problem? And she started struggle to find out, to show what is the problem. So she has serious problem, you know, and then the examiners, they somehow recommended her to look at finding out the problem. And then when it comes to pre-viva, I was still the chairman, and still she struggled. And there was a lot of corrections given. And examiners commented, then they failed to find any research problem that is undertaken. So her supervisors requested me to join them in a Google meeting because she doesn't live in Malaysia, the candidate. Okay, so when I sat down with the candidate, I said, okay, what's the problem? Then she said, Prof, actually, there is no problem. So I said, if there's no problem, why are you doing the research then? So what are you up to? Then she said, I'm trying to look at the top IT firms. Those have been very successful. What are you going to look at? She said, I want to see the performance. I said, of course, they are performing very well. That's why they're the top 10 or top 50. Then she asked me, Prof, what can I do now? I spent already 4 years, So I said, okay, please answer my question that I'm going to ask you now. I asked her a few questions. I asked her, can you please mute your microphone, please? Someone, please. Please mute your microphone, please. Thank you. So I asked her the first question. Those companies are top 50 this year. Were they in the top 50 last year? She said no. I said, okay. I said, what about those in the top 50 before 5 years? How many of them still sustain? And this year, they are still in top 10 or top 15. He said, Prof, most of the companies are not there. I said, okay. Now, that is the research problem. That companies are doing very well. They have become top 50, but they are not sustaining. They become top 50 next year become, out of top 50, or maybe last year they were top 10, and now they are in top 50. So meaning that they have been successful, they are performing well, but unfortunately they have not been able to sustain the performance they have. So that is your research question, okay? So that is the research problem, I'm sorry. And she was very happy, and that's how we identify, even though sometimes we don't see a problem, but you can identify problem, right? When you are not feeling well, you look at your body, and nothing is wrong with me, but how come I'm not feeling well? So you go to see a doctor, and they started doing tests, and suddenly they find something is wrong with you. Same thing, like you see a situation, appears to be very good, but as you go in a company which is very good, you may find something is not right, okay? So research problem got to be identified. And also please bear in mind, like for example, one of my students was doing a study on corporate social responsibility and organizational performance. And I asked the student, what is your study all about? The student says it's about corporate social responsibility. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, I'm doing a study on CSR practices. So, okay, what is the dependent variable? He said, organizational performance. I said, what's your research problem? She said, the problem is about organizational performance. I said, the problem is your dependent variable. That is your theme of your research, right? Interdependent variables are the issues. They are not the problem. They are the issues that contribute to the problem, which is your dependent variable, is the theme, okay? So be careful. The research problem that you identify, it becomes your dependent variable, okay? That becomes the theme of research. So these are the few steps that usually we will adopt to identify and define a research problem. We start with outlining areas of interest. Those are new. For example, like Leona is the first semester. When you're first semester, you will be outlining the areas of interest. What are the areas you are interested? So there could be many different topics and titles. Then you look at your capacity, your capability, your skills and all that. And finally, you choose a topic. Once you choose a topic, again, choosing a topic even could be very broad. Then you narrow your topic, okay? How do you do that? By reading more papers. You download papers, you read through papers, you consult with experts, academic supervisors, so you go to the industry, ask people, then you narrow down your topic. Then you identify that research problem from there, and then you identify the purpose of this study. These are the simple steps that you follow. I do have video in my YouTube channel, I think almost 2 hours long. There's a research problem, you may watch if you want to. So these are the few stages that we do basically to identify a research problem. So while you are doing it, we say read about your interests, talk to your colleagues, find out what others are doing, observe your environment, be curious, ask questions. So there are many things I put on the both two sides, right? So we do that all, environment scanning and all that, and you follow this outline. There are 5 stages there, and this will help you to identify correctly, identify and define your research problem correctly. Now, this is something that I came out with, to help students. This is a research problem template. You can easily do it. What you can do, main problem, I put it here, the theoretical or knowledge. The research problem may come from academic area, may come from industry. But if you are doing a research focusing only on academic, you will have problem later. So I will always advise you have academic problem, then you have to relate it with the industry. I'm going to show you that. So this slide basically tells you how can you plot the academic gaps, knowledge gaps into a template, okay? So you see here, the main problem is a firm value. The student dependent value is firm value. The problem is firm value. He said, banking sector witnessing significant decline of earnings profitability in recent years. So value of the firm is declining. So that is the problem. So what are the causes of this problem? Credit risks, liquidity risks. So he looks into financial and business risks, okay? And then he does have a moderating variable, financial innovation. So these are the issues, and these all issues are, each of them are independent variable or moderating variable. This all coming from academic area. How did he find it out? Through literature review and all that, okay? So you can easily plot it here. Those of you who have already experienced proposal defense, you know the questions are like, tell me what are the issues, tell me what are the issues. These questions are very common. So you can put it in a template like this, and that makes your life easier to identify variables and identify underpinning theories, do literature review, following the sequence and all that. And this is what I emphasize a lot. There are many criticisms on academic research. From industry, the people say, PhD is nothing, it's just nothing, I don't like it. So why? He said they do research on a very small area and they do have nothing to contribute to the industry, okay? So what I would always suggest and recommend that once you identify an academic research gap, connect it with the practical, contextual or industrial issues. Find out the problem and relate it there. Find out some statistical data from the industry and relate it to the academic gap, you know, the knowledge gap that you have identified. Excuse me. So I show another plot. That's where you are putting the template where you are plotting the issues affecting the industry. Like for this case, high not performing loans, weak liquidity problem, and so on. So if we have two, the knowledge gap, theoretical gap, or the academic, the gap that you identified, and then you relate with the industrial issues, your research problem become very strong, shining, and very visible. So no examiner can complain, I can't find your research problem. This is very common in many sessions that I have attended, okay? So you show the literature review, the literature gap, and they connect with the industrial data, some statistical data, makes your problem stronger. All right. Let me move on to the next one. Once you have identified your research problem, now what kind of problem it is? Depending on the problem, we will decide what kind of research philosophy we are going to choose. Remember, those of you who are doing PhD and join me now, we call it Doctor of Philosophy. We don't call it Doctor of Finance, Doctor of Engineering. We don't say Doctor of Marketing. We say Doctor of Philosophy, meaning when you do PhD, there must be some philosophical underpinning of your research. That's where the question comes in, the epistemology and ontology, right? So research paradigm, which is used parallelly with research philosophy, which is a set of common beliefs and agreements shared between scientists. It's about how problems should be understood and addressed. Okay, that's what it is. So it opens up the windows for you. Once you decide on the research paradigm or research philosophy, that will guide you throughout the research of next steps to be taken. Okay. So what is ontology? Ontology is about finding out the truth. Finding out the truth. So once you see a problem, how do you know this is right, this is true, this is real? How do you know that? So to finding out the truth of a problem is called ontology. Okay. So you see, it is the study being which is concerned with what actually exists in the world. Okay, about which humans can acquire knowledge. So you are looking at, is it true? Is it real? You know, is it a reality that we listen or hear, we see? So that's the reason you want to do research, finding out the truth. But again, when it comes to ontologies, they are divided into two. One group, we call them realists. They believe that there's only one truth for one problem. And the other group called relativist ontologists. This group believes no. If there is a problem, there cannot be only one truth. There could be many truths, more than a truth. Okay. So this is how we categorize. But again, I will show you more discussion, show you more elaboration on it. And the next term, when it comes to research philosophy, we call it epistemology. Epistemology is basically trying to understand the problem. Okay, you are basically going into the knowledge. The epistemology, the term comes from episteme, of Greek word, which means knowledge. So meaning that you are describing to know something, how to know the truth and reality. So in ontology, we are trying to understand whether this is true or not. And here we identify the truth, and now we are trying to, see in detail the nature and forms of the truth. So that is going to be the knowledge. Okay, that's going to be the knowledge. So here we focus on the nature of human knowledge, comprehension of an problem that is existed in the society. Okay, so that is what we call epistemology. So ontology is about finding out the truth, whether there is a truth or not, or there is a truth or there are more than one truth. But epistemology is going detail into it and finding out what is really happening there. Okay, so this is how this slide is very, very nice. I like this slide a lot. Basically it tells you exactly how the research flows. So ontology, what is the reality? Epistemology, what and how can I know the reality? Theoretical perspective, what approaches? So we'll be looking at that after that, deductive and inductive approaches. Methodology, what procedures? Is it going to be, the kind of procedures research design we choose? And what tools can we use to acquire the knowledge? Is it qualitative, quantitative, all that? We'll be looking at that. And what data can you collect? So you're looking at the data, kind of data, whether it's going to be secondary data, primary data. So you can see the flow there. When you do research, it is one piece of work, and it flows from the beginning to the end. Okay, so there must be cohesion. It is an integrated part. It's a comprehensive and very integrated, logical sequence, and good flow would be there in every research. Okay, that's what is being shown here. All right, and that's what I said. Once you have a research problem, then we look at from philosophical foundation, and from there we decide which kind of later stages we will follow. Okay. Now, this slide, let me, okay, positive is basically, they say is a single reality, but so you will look at quantitative, you either accept hypothesis or reject hypothesis. This is constructive, they do not believe in single reality. So what happened? They believe there are more than one belief. So what they want truth. So what they do? They do qualitative method. They go into more deeper and deeper into the issue and construct the knowledge and interpret it. So this is constructivist. Pragmatists, they do not believe in positivism or constructivism. Rather, they feel that no, the reality can be renegotiated, debated, and interpreted. Therefore, one research method is not enough. Qualitative and quantitative are not alone enough. So what you need to do? You got to mix them. So mix method, so which I'm going to discuss later. Also, I'm going to show you. So this slide beautifully translated basically the ontology and epistemological part. So if you are positivism-oriented researcher, then either you will follow positivism or post-positivism. In positivism, we look into single reality. Post-positivism, we look into more than single, the reality. And both cases, we do follow quantitative analysis, because here just we accept or reject hypothesis. Whereby interpretivism-oriented research are divided into two. One is interpretivism. We interpret the knowledge. Or constructivism, we construct the knowledge. Okay, so we come out with completely new knowledge. Okay, and one is interpreting the knowledge, other is constructing knowledge. And both, we have to use qualitative methods. Okay, so qualitative methods, so that's what you have to use. So if you are positivist, then you are going with quantitative. You are interpretivist, then you are going with qualitative research. Okay, keep that in mind. So once you have a research problem, and then you decided whether you are going to be positivist or constructivist, okay, then you have to now go into categories of research. Okay, so this is the categories of research we have: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. Okay, so I'm very sure all of you join me, you understand it, so I'm not going to explain that. Okay, but this is the mixed one, merging the qualitative and quantitative. There could be many different approaches, as we call it as triangulation. It could be we do qualitative, quantitative simultaneously. We may do ongoing qualitative with multiple waves of quantitative. We may have quantitative preceding the qualitative, or you perform series of research by qualitative, followed by quantitative, followed by qualitative. Okay, so this is what we call it a triangulation. Personally, I do recommend now that if you are doing quantitative study, keep a small portion of qualitative. If you are doing a qualitative study, keep a small portion of quantitative research. Okay, so that helps you a lot. So if you are following, remember positivism, then you are going for quantitative. You are following the constructivism, then you are going for qualitative. You have to remember that. So this is actually the way we do research. All this research, you start with qualitative. We never do a research quantitative at first, okay? All research, you start with qualitative, because qualitative, it starts from zero. But quantitative, it starts from some work has been done, some researches has been done, some theories are there to explain the phenomena, and that's where we do quantitative. So qualitative are the genuine research, where it starts from zero. So when you do qualitative study, we basically propose some assumptions and hypothesis. You do not test the hypothesis. We propose hypothesis. And then when you do quantitative study, based on the qualitative study findings, we take up that research and we test the hypothesis. You confirm the hypothesis. So after confirming hypothesis, then still we find that some new trends are appearing. The findings are not enough to settle the problem. So what we do, we take up another qualitative study. And this cycle continues, okay? So all study, all research, you start with qualitative. When there's no theory to explain, there's no concept that can help you to understand all that. So you start with zero. So interview people, you do focus group, you do Delphi techniques, we use projective techniques. There are so many techniques available in qualitative study. And from zero, we come out with some assumptions to understand the problem, okay? And from there, we move on with quantitative study. And that follows on, okay? Now, so now with PhD, with the philosophy, we are going at the positivist or constructivist. From there, we decide whether qualitative or quantitative. And from quantitative, qualitative, we can choose.
Short question, Shiro. Sorry, sir, for the interruption.
Yes.
So regarding this point that you just mentioned, today's class, we were actually discussing this. যে আমাদের PhD স্টুডেন্ট যারা আছে, আমাদের ক্লাসগুলো স্যার কোয়ালিটেটিভ কোয়ান্টিটেটিভ ক্লাসগুলো স্প্লিট হয়ে যাওয়াতে আমাদের একটু বেশ প্রবলেম হচ্ছিল। এটা কি স্যার এরকম ভাবে কোথাও মানে করা যায় যে আমাদের মেবি 2 ঘন্টা আমরা কোয়ান্টিটেটিভ করলাম, তারপর ফলো আপ 1 ঘন্টা কোয়ালিটেটিভ করলাম? বিকজ আপনি যেটা বললেন স্যার যে প্রথমে কোয়ালিটেটিভ দিয়ে শুরু করতে হবে, আমাদের ভেরিয়েবলস গুলোকে একটু আইডেন্টিফাই করতে হবে, তারপর কোয়ান্টিটেটিভ ডিজাইন করতে হবে। সো অনেকে ভাবছে যে হয়তো শুধু কোয়ান্টিটেটিভে হয়ে যাবে বা শুধু কোয়ালিটেটিভে হয়ে যাবে, বাট ইন মোস্ট কেসেস রিয়ালিটিতে তো আমাদের দুটোই লাগবে।
Okay, I got your point. Unfortunately, today's session is a very primary session. The topic is essentials of research. So I cannot definitely go very detailed into many things, okay? So I want to just give an overview for you to understand what research can be looked into from a comprehensive viewpoint, okay? From a holistic view. To move into detail, we have to go topic by topic, okay? So I can't do that within that time. And also, organizers gave me only 1 hour time for today, okay? So I may take a bit longer. But I cannot really go into deeper of the issues. But during question answers, in case if you have any burning question, you can ask me during question and answer session, okay? And I'm sorry, I have to speak in English because there are many international participants are here, okay?
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you. When it comes to research approaches, there are basically 2 approaches. One we call deductive, and one we call it inductive. Deductive is basically deductive, we know, meaning that something is there. From there, we plus minus, okay? So we start with the theory. Deductive research, we start with the theory. Then we construct hypothesis, we collect data, we accept or reject hypothesis. That is deductive, okay? So deductive is definitely a quantitative approach. So if you are following the positivism and then quantitative, then you follow deductive. There must be a flow, There must be a flow. And this is how I explain deductive approach. I say, okay, everything is there. You are landed with the garden. And you see all kind of flowers there. You may not pick up all flowers. You may not like all the flowers there, you know. So if you are given a choice of picking up 5 or 6, you will choose the 5 or 6 there. So that is your choice of selection. That is deductive approach. Theories are there. Variables are there. You read papers. From the papers, you identify variables. If you read 40 papers, you may have found, say, for example, 10 or 15 variables. You are not going to take all of them in your research. You will choose only 5 or 6. That's maximum you're going to choose as independent variable, you see, or including moderating, mediating variable. So deductive approach is everything is there, meaning it starts with the theory, meaning a qualitative study being done, a theory being proposed, You take up the theory, make it an underpinning theory, and you continue, and then you come out with a finally result. Okay, this is it. Okay, so this is deductive approach. You have everything there, and then you select from there. Whereby inductive is different. You observe the phenomena. There's nothing there. You look at how people behave and act, and then you analyze the pattern. You formulate some kind of relationship, and at the end, you come out with some assumption. Most of the time, if you're proposing and developing a theory, you should be getting a Nobel Prize. You may not be coming out with a theory at the end of every qualitative research. Okay, so you may come out with some assumptions. Okay, so that's how inductive is. You start with zero. At the end, you end up with an assumption of a theory. That's how I put it. You are landed with a soil, ground, and then you start harvesting, right? You are planting tree, you're fertilizing, you're watering, and finally you are getting what you want. The kind of flower that you wanted, you got exactly what you want. That is inductive, So that's how it is. You observe phenomena and finally you come with assumptions. So that's what it is. But when you see the flowers, you do not exactly know the relationship of these flowers and all that. So you do not know what's the price going to be in the market, who is going to buy it. Either you're going to go for direct selling or you're going to use a middleman to sell and all that. So that's inductive approach, qualitative approach. Okay, so that's how it is. So if it's inductive, you start with interpretivism, right? Interpretivism or constructivism. Constructivism, qualitative, then you are going to inductive. If you are going for positivism, so positivism, then quantitative, then deductive. You're still following the flow. Please remember the flow that I explained now. All right. Let me move on to research design. Every topic that I am talking to you now, it deserves at least 2 hours discussion. Research approaches, 2 hours. Research design, 2 hours. Even 2 hours may not be enough, okay? So I cannot do that. As I said at the beginning, I'm going to give you a holistic view or comprehensive view of your research. That's why I put the title, proposed the title as Essentials of Research. The thing that is essential to conduct a research, okay? But I'm not going to go very deep, but still the way I'm going to explain, I hope you will understand it easily, okay? Those slides that I have prepared can be easily translated into 10, 20 pages, but I put it in one slide, okay? Make it easy for you. There are many research designs available there. The first kind of research design, we call it reporting. Reporting basically, we just summarize the data and then we just present it, okay? And people look at the report and understand what has happened, okay? Descriptive, we try to provide some questions like when, where, how, and what, and all those sort of questions. So describing a problem. So you identify the problem, define a problem, and you are now describing it rather than finding a solution to the problem, okay? That's descriptive kind of research. Predictive research, okay? That's what saying that you take an attempt to predict when and what situation even occurs. So this is basically most of the time in PhD students will do, looking at what happens if an independent variable, with the one side increases, other side increases or decreases, right? We do. When you do modeling also, we look at where the one increases, what happened to the other one. So predictive kind of, the research. So this is suitable for PhD kind of research, predictive design. This is not suitable for PhD. This is not suitable for PhD. Master's possibly descriptive possible, but predictive suitable for PhD students. Explanatory definitely suitable for PhD as well as masters. So it is conducted for a problem which is not well researched before. So that's what you will do. Most of the time you do literature review of different parts of the world, and then when you come zoom in into your country context, you will say that even though many researchers have done the study, but in my country it's not really researched a lot. So this is explanatory kind of research. So you like to develop a better model than the models available now. Okay. This is very suitable. Many of you are using that. And last research design is known as exploratory. This is more on qualitative research. Would you please mute your microphone, please, someone? Someone has... Yes? Can you please mute your microphone? I think it's all right. Maybe he's not there. Or can you mute the microphone? You can, right? The moderator.
I can't. Little here. Little here.
You can actually mute his microphone. Yeah, those of you are technically. All right, let me continue. It's disturbing a bit. I think you will understand later. So exploratory research is basically you are exploring, you are going deeper and deeper of understanding the existing problem. Okay, so you start with the general idea and then you move into very detail of the topic. So this is more like a qualitative study. Okay, the earlier four explanatory could be qualitative, could be quantitative. Um, Predictive could be also qualitative, mostly quantitative, but exploratory would be more on qualitative. Okay, so these are the five kind of research design that we have. So I said five is reporting, first one reporting, second one descriptive, third one predictive, fourth one was explanatory, and fifth one is exploratory. So again, depending on the research problem, then you choose the research philosophy correctly, and then you followed by research categories, right? The research method, quantitative, qualitative. Then you look into research approaches, and then you go for research design. This all must be in line with the similar philosophy that you have adopted at the beginning after identifying and defining the research problem. Now, there are certain terms and languages are there which are very common in research. This one I'm not going to explain because I will have more discussion later. Okay, let me skip this slide now. These are the terms which are very important. Many times I ask students, what is data? We always say we collect data, but when you ask what is data, many PhD students in the final viva cannot tell us what does it mean by data. They cannot define. They cannot define what is information, cannot define what is knowledge. So that makes it very shameful, as a PhD student, you do not know how to define knowledge and all that, which is very shameful. So I would like to help you to understand it better. So data is basically the raw fact and figure. Raw facts and figures. It may be relevant to you, may not be relevant to you, may be useful to you, may not be useful to you. So when you scan and screen the data and make it useful, it becomes information. Okay? Something relevant, something useful, something beneficial, that become information. So raw data, facts and figure could be just there and nobody uses it and it's just unused and not thought to be relevant. And now when you scan it and scan it, then it make it relevant, useful for you, it become information. And when someone has that information in possession, it become knowledge. So when you say this person is knowledgeable, means what? He has possession of certain information which others don't have. That makes him knowledgeable. Okay, so knowledge basically is having possession of certain kind of information. That's what you call knowledge. So if he says this guy is knowledgeable about statistics, meaning what? He knows about statistics, meaning he has information about many things about statistics. If you say this person is knowledgeable marketing, what does it mean? He has certain thing in information that I don't have. That's how we call him knowledgeable about marketing. And when somebody can apply the knowledge, he has the ability to apply the knowledge, you call it technology. So these are the jargons, words are being commonly used in research. We need to understand. Okay, as I said, my talk today is basically very preliminary. Yet I want to give you a very holistic and comprehensive understanding overview of research. Now, now you have already identified research problem. You have decided on research philosophy. You have decided on a qualitative, quantitative study. You have decided on research approaches. You have decided on research design. Now you want to go deeper into the issues that you have, problem you have. You would like to understand more. So what do you do? We always propose SLR, right? Systematic literature review. That's where many students suffer a lot. How to identify relevant literature, how to review it, and how to extract the kind of literature that is crucial, essential for you to conduct the research. This is what Saunders has proposed. You start when you look for papers. It's not that easy to get relevant papers. You still always struggle to get the relevant papers. So we say define parameters. You generate keywords, then you conduct search, you obtain literature, evaluate them, you record them, and you start drafting already. Okay, so that's what is being proposed by Saunders. What Saunders says is define parameters means what? Say, for example, you are doing a research on organization performance, and when it talks about organization performance, there are many things there, but you decided to take on human resource practices. Then human resource practices, what are the parameters you have? For example, recruitment, selection, training and development, performance evaluation. That's what you look at. Those have become parameters. Okay, so from there you generate keywords, then you type in Google even, then you search for papers, you obtain literature, evaluate them, then you record them. Okay, when you record them, record meaning what? You are evaluating means what? You are reading, you are reviewing, you are getting exactly what you need. You are trying to understand how research was done, what kind of theories was used, what kind of methodology was adopted, what kind of data was used, what kind of analysis method used. Then you record it, and finally, what you do is the drafting. That's what I recommend. If you read one paper, you start drafting already. So I do have a certain template also I propose. You can go to my YouTube channel. I do have many videos on systematic literature review. You can listen and understand more better. Okay, and this process continues. This process continues until you have come out with some kind of critical literature review. Okay, so this process continues. You continue and continue, and after doing few stages, a few steps of doing this cycle of doing this, you should be able to get hold of a good number of research papers, relevant key papers, and then you review them and start writing critical literature review. Okay, how to organize a literature review chapter? This is common question from many students. You start with dependent variable, followed by independent, and then moderating, and so on. And you end up with an excellent summary of the chapter, highlighting the research gap you identified. Okay, so you do not start with independent variable. You do not start with independent. You start with dependent variable. That is the theme of research. That is the research problem that you have identified. Okay, but you have to ensure that a good flow and logical sequence is there, beginning from dependent to independent and all that. And this is another very comprehensive line outlines of literature review. You can do literature review by following few approaches. You can start with thematic approach. Thematic, you start with the theme. Go with the theme. So I said your theme, main theme is dependent variable. So with this organizational performance, you start with definition of organizational performance, and slowly you move into detail of that. But while you are doing it, thematic can be combined with chronological. So you go by year, okay? Year, the 1970, there was a theory proposed by this, and followed by 1980, there was a research done, then 96, there was a research done, 90, and then 2000. So you have chronologically presenting the theme, the findings with the theme. So if you are going the theme with independent variable, each independent variable, again, you are presenting with the chronological order of the research findings. As well as if you have special focus on methodology, you can combine thematic, chronological with methodology, or you can combine thematic, chronological, and theoretical. Because certain research theory is being on focus, some research methodology is on focus. Okay, so you cannot be adopting just only one, will not be enough. You may want to combine. So it could be thematic and theoretical. It could be thematic and methodological, but in between the chronological order must be there. I have seen many viva voce sessions where examiners complain that students have reviewed papers. Say 1980 is he reviews a paper, after that he jump into 2000. In between 20 years is missing. And examiners start complaining, what happened in these 20 years? What are the findings about it? So you need to have some kind of chronological order of findings to be presented. Okay, so you start with thematic, chronological, and theoretical. So you can embed, you can combine, make it a hybrid, 2-3 methods together, and then you present your literature review. All right, systematic literature review. As I said, I got many videos, even my YouTube channel, right? You can just type, you go to YouTube channel, you just type platform for research and development. You will see my YouTube channel there, and you can easily get many videos there. Okay, all right. So now we have done literature review. You have done literature review, then you should be able to get the theories that is, relevant to you. Theory become underpinning theory, or theory become supporting theories. And from there, you identify, you should be also be able, from literature review, to identify the relevant variables for your study, and you develop a framework. It could be a theoretical framework if it is a quantitative research. It is a conceptual framework if it is a qualitative research. This qualitative research, you start with concept. Okay, start with concept. End up with concept, right? So you start with the concept, end up with the concept, that's a proposition. But qualitative research, you start with the theory, and end up with theory, testing the hypothesis. Okay. So this is how a theory basically starts. The theory starts with an idea. Idea is just an absurd something that is sometimes may not be symbolized may not be understood. Idea is just an abstract something. It's just a mental block or something like that. So most of the time when you have good ideas, people will say stupid idea because they don't understand it. Okay? And as we say, the stupid ideas are the best ideas in the world, because you come out with a completely new idea and people cannot visualize, cannot understand, cannot measure, so they say it's a stupid idea. Okay, so idea is something that it comes from your, of your subconscious or conscious mind, and then when you can show some kind of visualization, the mental idea, you can symbolize it and show it to the people. This is what I mean. It become a concept. Okay, and when the concept can be somehow observable, measurable, it become construct. It's very similar to variables. Okay, construct is something which can be measured. Concept cannot be measured, can be understood. Okay, can be visualized, can be symbolized, but cannot be measured. But when it can measure, then you reach at the stage of construct. Okay, construct like variable, and then when you assume relationship between construct, it become proposition or hypothesis. And when a proposition is approved, it become a theory. So these are the building blocks. Okay, so this is how it is. Ideas to concept, concept to construct, construct to propositions, and propositions are tested, it become theory. Okay, so these are the building blocks of a theory. So when it comes to theoretical framework, definitely it comes with the theory, but again, the elements of theory will become independent variable or moderating variable, all that. So when you develop a framework, basically quantitative study, right? Theoretical framework. It's a qualitative study that we develop conceptual framework, or sometimes we call it research framework. So quantitative study, it starts with variables, but qualitative study start with concepts. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, so quantitative study, dependent variable is basically the variable that is dependent on other issues. For example, like if you are looking at organization performance, then you are looking at what are the issues that affect organization performance. It could be financial, non-financial, and all that. If you are doing a study on job satisfaction, that is a dependent variable. People are satisfied or not satisfied. People seems to be unsatisfied, dissatisfied, whatever. And the factors, the issues could be salary, could be employee-employee relationship, could be leadership. Those are independent variable. Okay, independent variable are really independent, not related to anyone. And in between independent and dependent variable, we do have two kinds of variable. We call them intervening variable. It could be either mediating variable or could be moderating variable. Okay, when we say moderating variable, basically the relationship between independent and dependent can be strengthened or weakened when you introduce the moderating. And mediating is something else I'm going to show you afterwards. Okay, so definitions are there. I'm going to share the slide with the moderator, Leona, and she will she can share with you. Okay, I'll share the one with her. We do have also the another two variables, because research are being undertaken by millions of people undertaking research in the world. So whatever research area we go in, actually we find it exhausted. So we have to come out with something new, especially for PhD student. So you can have antecedent before independent variable or outcome variable after the dependent variable. I'm going to explain that afterwards to you. Okay. This is a kind of a simple theoretical framework that you can see. The title is Factor Affecting Internet Abuse. So you can see here there are 3 independent variable and 1 dependent variable. That's the way it should be drawn. So the student is looking at what are the factors affecting internet abuse. The independent variable 3 you see there, it simply doesn't come from the sky. It has to be supported by theory. So these 3 variables coming from theory of planned behavior, TPB. So there must be a theory. So that theory, we call it as underpinning theory. Variables that is supported by theory, we call them an underpinning theory. Okay, and sometimes you may have a framework which is not fully supported by one theory, but you needed 2 theory to support your framework. The dominating theory would be dependent variable are also known as outcome variable, but also there are cases where you can have outcome variable after dependent variable. Okay, there are many papers available now. You can just type antecedent papers on antecedent variable, papers with outcome variables. You will see a lot, even in Google. Okay. This is how we show, the theory, how it underpins. So underpins the framework. And if you see, the student has developed the framework and shown it here on the right side. What are the research gaps? He is proving why he has decided to take those independent variable and moderating variable to measure the organization, the firm value, okay, looking at the effect of those issues on the research problem, firm value, okay. So the research gap also being shown at the right side. Now, there are cases whereby we use modeling, right? In economics, accounting, and finance, certain research, we don't use framework, research framework, or conceptual framework or theoretical framework. We rather use modeling, and we use Stata software or Amos software, or sometimes even SPSS to run those tests, okay? So this is an example of modeling, which you put the independent variable and dependent variable in a model, in equation, rather than putting in a framework, okay? Now, let me move into sample. So now we started with research problem, then we move into research philosophy. From there, we move into categories of research, then we look at research approaches, then we look at research design, okay? So from there, we look into literature review, and then we develop theory and theoretical framework and hypothesis. Now you would like to collect the data. Whom are you going to collect the data? So you have to have sampling. When you have a research problem identified, there could be millions of people involved in that kind of problem. So you cannot be collecting data from everyone. So we have to have some kind of sampling techniques available, right? So that's the idea of sampling. Basically, when you go to the market and buy mangoes, what happens in Malaysia now? Everywhere mangoes are there, right? Even in Bangladesh also, many other countries, I'm not sure. But when you go to buy mango or oranges or any other fruits, what the shop will do, they give you a small slice to taste it. And after tasting the small slice, you decide whether you want to buy or you do not want to buy. But how do you know the slice given to you and that orange seems to be delicious? How do you know the rest of the oranges are delicious? But somehow you have to make an inference, you have to generalize it. So tasting one, you feel, you conclude, okay, rest of them are very good. The mango given to you, small slice of a mango. By tasting it, how do you know the rest of the mangoes are tasty? You do not know, but you generalize. You still make an inference to it and decide to buy or not to buy. In a research is like that, you choose a small sample, and from there we generalize it and we make a conclusion, okay? So we start with theoretical, population like millions. Then we look at our study population. Then we define a theoretical frame, sampling frame, and from there we go into a sample, selection of sample. I do have also a video in my YouTube channel on sampling. If you would like to know more detail, probability, non-probability sample, and which one should be appropriate at what time, these all are there in the video. So this is basically it. Your target population, then study population, then sample. Say, for example, you are doing a study on effectiveness of online shopping now, or people's perception towards online shopping. So your target population would be everyone who involves in online shopping. And after that, you cannot be taking everyone. So what you do is, okay, I'm going to take only those people, say, for example, a PhD student, or those people are undertaking postgraduate studies. So that becomes your study population. And from there, you choose only 300, 400. That becomes your sample, okay? So that's the idea of sampling, So this is these are the two groups, basically, probability and non-probability. I don't think I am going to explain most on it, but please remember there are some misunderstanding on it, which I must explain and to you by today itself. If you are using any kind of probability sampling, then you have to make sure you have the total list of target population. If you cannot obtain total list of target population, you cannot use probability sampling. You have to go for non-probability. That's number one. And number two, if your research requires strong generalization, it is probability. If you do not require strong generalization, please go to non-probability. There are a lot of misunderstanding here. Most of the session that I attend with the students as external examiner or internal examiner or being chairman of a session, PhD sessions, I see majority of the students do mistake here. I'll ask them, what method did you choose? It's a simple random sampling. I'm sorry, shows here. Did you obtain the list of total target population? No, prof, I couldn't. And then I say, this is not simple random, then it is convenience sampling. You choose the set is convenient, or maybe you use just purposive sampling. Okay, so if you do not have the list, you cannot use probability sampling. If you have the list, you follow probability sampling. If you do not have the list of total target population, please go to non-probability sampling. And then also when you are going for sampling, how many people should be in the sample, then we do have many tables and methods determining the sample size, which is not the topic of today. Okay, you can follow Christian Morgan table, or you can follow Masakaran table. You can follow G power calculation of number of samples. Those are available online also. I do have video also in my YouTube channel. You can look into it. And then data collection. When it comes to data collection, there are many different ways of collecting data, right? Basically, there are primary data and secondary data. That's how we categorize. Primary data are the data that is collected for the first time for the purpose of your study. And secondary data is the data that already exists, and you collect it from there to serve the purpose of doing your research and solving the research problem that is identified and defined. So when you are collecting data, please keep in mind that you have to collect the data from where the problem is rooted. Okay, so if the problem is affecting individual, the data should be collected from individual. If the problem is affecting organization, the data should be collected from organization. And those are called unit of analysis. Unit that is analyzed. Okay, data where it is collected. Okay, so if you're collecting data from individual, then your unit of analysis is individual. If you're collecting data from organization, then you're analyzing the organization. Your unit of analysis is organization. Okay, but again, you have to keep in mind, I put it in a red at the bottom there. The underpinning theory that you choose, you got to be very careful. If you are using individuals for analysis, then your theory got to be individual level theory. If you are analyzing organization, then your theory must be an organization level theory. Okay, so now next question would be, student will ask, how do I know this theory is individual level or organization level theory? The answer is you have to go to the original paper where the author has proposed a theory and look at the assumptions. Look at the assumptions. If all assumptions are individual level assumption, then that theory is an individual level theory. And those assumptions are taken to develop the theory. Those assumptions are organization level, then that theory is an organization level theory. Okay, so I'm moving into the final slide. Data analysis, you have collected the data. So I talk about sampling, collection of data. Now we have the data. If it is quantitative study, you can use SPSS, PLA, SAMOS, and STATA. It's a qualitative, then mostly we use now in vivo and Atlas T. Okay. On SPSS, I do have many videos on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to organize soon, next month, an advanced level SPSS workshop, and I do it free. You can attend. I'm going to have also a workshop on PLS and in vivo. In vivo would be very soon, in July. In vivo would be in July. SPSS would be in July. Stata planning also in July. Let me see if I can manage in July. If not, then I'm going to put it in August. So data analysis can be, definitely you have to do it using softwares. Qualitative study can now be analyzed with softwares. And there are very efficient softwares available. In vivo and Atlas T is there available. It's not Altas, it's Atlas T. Sorry. So hypothesis testing or data analysis can be done using softwares. Okay, I think that's what I have it in my mind. I thought this is the first webinar organized by this association, newly born association. And I said at the beginning, even though the topic looks to be a very beginner topic, but I will cover very comprehensive and give you some kind of holistic view of understanding of research. All right, so